Tonight on your News at 9, Jasper County Sheriff's investigators have a new suspect in a Sarcoxy murder mystery. And missionaries offer to help a Joplin family that's had a rough couple of months. KOAM Zach Dodge shows us how. Plus, who says you have to be on dry land to play some Texas Hold'em? We are checking out this underwater poker game in Joplin that's raising money for local firefighters. Meteorologist Nick Kelly has your weather. Sports director Jacob Leonard is here with sports. I'm Mike Mahoney, and this is your KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, thanks so much for joining us this evening. A person of interest in a recent death investigation in Crawford County is now in custody. 37-year-old Nicholas Adam Carrillo is currently being held at the Crawford County Jail. He was arrested last night on drug charges. Police had been searching for Carrillo ever since a man's body was found at an Arcadia residence on Thursday. The Jasper County Sheriff says a person of interest in a Sarcoxy homicide investigation has been identified. 34-year-old Justin Chase Stevens of Coleman, Alabama, has an active warrant for felony theft and is considered armed and dangerous. He is also wanted for questioning concerning the death of a 46-year-old Sarcoxy woman, Becky Sanders. On Wednesday, her body was found in a Sarcoxy home. A gray Subaru Legacy has also been stolen from the residence. All right, it's time now for a look at your weather. Here's meteorologist Nick Kelly.
We looked at a pretty quiet day, Mike, but as far as temperatures go, everybody is seeing not too bad temperatures for this Saturday. 27 to start, not too far off the average high 25 and hitting a high of 42 today. Even though it looks like a few snow flurries popping up on the radar, we're staying relatively dry as we get this weekend, or make that this Saturday night going. However, there's another wave upstairs that wants to clip us for tomorrow. That could try to bring in a few showers by tomorrow. But I really think, again, we just stayed dry but cold during the overnight. Let's say overnight lows in the upper 20s. And despite mostly cloudy skies and a northwest wind kicking up this quick wave and maybe a quick shower by the afternoon, I think we can do a little bit better with temperatures. I think we'll get highs near 43. We'll break down the week ahead of us coming up in a bit, Mike.
Thanks as always, Nick Kelly. A young group of missionaries is trying to help people see the light in the world by offering a helping hand. KOAM Zach Dodge learned how they helped a Joplin family who has had a rough couple of months.
Over the last couple of months, Adam Thornton and his family have struggled to keep up with everything on their 7-acre property outside of Joplin.
We've been here 6 years, and the place looks almost as if it did whenever we moved in.
He has 2 young kids and works full-time, and his dad, who's a military veteran, recently had some health issues that keep him from doing as much as he'd like.
It's grown over and needs help.
So some volunteers responded to that call, offering free services as they spread their message of faith.
As we're out here, we serve people like these wonderful people, and we also teach people about Jesus Christ and try to help them come closer to Him.
They're missionaries with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who were originally supposed to go to completely different countries. Then the pandemic hit, so they were reassigned to the Joplin area, which led them to the Thornton family. They helped out by cleaning up the brush and down trees from their yard and restoring their pond so the family can enjoy time by the water again.
Just like seeing them smile, seeing them be happy when they're helped out it's amazing.
With Dad being disabled and Mom being between 2 jobs and me working myself, we really just haven't really had time to upkeep, so we really appreciate them and everything they do.
But they explain it's about more than just doing work. It's about showing the light in the world and letting people know they aren't alone.
I feel like it's just kind of a dark time for a lot of people. A lot of people just don't have support, and so it's good to be there for them.
And now Adam and his fiance might do the same.
If I can find somewhere local in Joplin to do the same thing they're doing, I wouldn't mind doing something like that at all.
In Jasper County, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
And if you live in the Joplin or Carl Junction area and need a helping hand, we have put contact information for the missionary group on our website. That, of course, is komnewsnow.com. Have you ever heard of playing poker underwater? It sounds like a bit of a gamble, but it turned out to be a good time for those pros over at the Calypso Scuba in Joplin. Earlier today, some players took part in a submerged Texas Hold'em game using waterproof cards. Winners took home prizes from Calypso Scuba, and the rounds lasted about 15 minutes.
We don't have our crowds here getting larger, but I see poker games being done all across the country now. So people see that we have done it, and they're like, well, what a fun thing. And so they'll call me up and say, how do you do that anyway? And I explain the procedures, and they start having their own also.
The event ended with a chili feed, so it looks like everyone was a winner. Money from the event's entry fees went to support local firefighters. It's now time for us to honor one of our many four-state heroes. Tonight we pay tribute to Effie McNally of Joplin, Missouri. McNally served as a sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, and he fought in World War II. Thank you, sir, for your courage and for fighting for freedom. For more information on all our four-state heroes, or to nominate your own, just log on to KOAMNewsNow.com. And we'll be right back with meteorologist Nick Kelly and another look at your weather. Plus, we'll check out some weather news on the other side of the globe. The capital of Russia has been seeing some problems caused by heavy winter snow. Details are coming up right after weather.
On the heels of the snow that we dealt with on Friday, it was certainly nice to see the sun back in action, and you could just see it right in front of you there. It melted off the little accumulating snow that we saw on the lens overlooking Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just outside of Seneca, Missouri. Once we got that little bit of snow and ice to fade away, we looked at partly sunny skies throughout the course of the afternoon. That did help us out with temperatures. Couldn't really go anywhere yesterday with the snow, the clouds, and that strong northwest wind. Stayed mainly in the lower and middle 30s all day. But we did drop back into the upper 20s, lower 40s this afternoon. I see us staying cool for tomorrow with another weak system clipping us with maybe a few showers during the afternoon on your Sunday. Otherwise, as far as temperatures go for this coming week, I'm seeing temperatures staying cool to chilly. We'll be bouncing between the 40s and 50s as we continue to see other waves head our way as we head throughout the coming week. So we'll break it all down for you as we roll along. But first, where do we stand right now? It's quiet. It's cold, though, 37 degrees with a calm breeze and the humidity at 65%. Most of us sitting in the mid-30s, 34 in Pittsburgh, 38 in Galena, 37 in Webb, Oronogo, and down in Neosho, while the outlying areas are already trying to sneak back near 30 for Nevada, Stockton Lake, and Greenfield, while we still have 37 in Independence, Fredonia, and 33, one of the colder spots in northeast Oklahoma around Veneta. Another weak wave trying to clip us for tomorrow. Out ahead of it, it looks like a little moisture trying to drop a few snowflakes in southeast Kansas. I think most of that's not really reaching the ground. However, our last storm system, it was quite an impressive one. It's continued to churn across northern parts of New England. For us, even though it doesn't look like anything's going on at the surface, let me take you upstairs because this upper wave coming across the Dakotas and Minnesota, that's trying to bring a little moisture our way tonight, and that's what's really going to try to bring in at least a few showers for tomorrow as we wrap up our weekend. As far as the overnight goes, let's just keep at it with partly cloudy skies and eventually maybe a little bit of clear skies for some of you before we hit sunrise in the morning. That will ensure that we start things out around 27 degrees in the morning. Let's say upper 30s to near 40 by noon and pushing afternoon highs, mainly in the lower to middle 40s across the region. 27 to start, 39 by noon, and then afternoon highs around 43. Again, maybe a stray shower here, but a little colder up near Kansas City. So for anybody heading to Arrowhead for the big game against the Browns, a little colder air up that way could mean a few snow flurries by kickoff and all the way through halftime. Otherwise, we'll keep temperatures right around 40 throughout much of the game. Sunday night, going into Monday morning, maybe some partly cloudy skies as we dip back into the upper 20s for Monday. And even with mostly cloudy skies ahead of another wave sneaking in, we will be back in the lower 50s on Monday. And we see the future track continuing to show kind of an active upper level setup. A wave from Monday sneaks out of here on Tuesday. Then it's all about focusing on this upper low across southern parts of California. Eventually that's going to shoot out and head our way. And once it does, it's going to bring in some rain chances late Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe ending as a potential rain-snow mix for Friday morning. Something to keep an eye on. But at least temperatures look okay for the next several days. 43 tomorrow, 52 for Martin Luther King Day. Then we're back in the 40s for the middle of the week, Mike.
All right, thanks so much, Nick Kelly. And hey, Nick, check this out. We've got some international weather news. Winter weather appears to be sticking around parts of Russia, with snow falling across Moscow for a third day in a row. The heavy snowfall began coming down on Russia's capital city on January 14th. Thousands of workers have been clearing city streets and hauling away snow, but many of the city's roads remain snow and ice covered. Temperatures are plunging too, with nighttime temps expected to fall to minus 13 degrees. Yikes. All right. Still to come, there are some harsh accusations being thrown at the White House when it comes to the vaccine rollout.
Several governors are angry at the White House, claiming the administration made a promise it couldn't keep when it comes to vaccine doses around the country. In New York, I'm Alex Hogan. I'll have that story coming up.
Multiple states are behind schedule with vaccine supply for all their residents. They're now blaming the federal government for misleading them on when the next shipments would arrive. Fox News' Alex Hogan takes a look.
We were lied to with plans of the administration to release reserve doses that were to be the second doses of the vaccine.
Several state governors accusing the White House on Friday of making a promise it couldn't keep when it pledged to release more vaccine doses from a federal stockpile that had already run dry.
Now we find out today, at least from what the media is reporting, is that the cupboard's bare in Washington, D.C.
New York City recently expanded who is eligible to get the vaccine, opening up the Javits Convention Center to serve as a mass vaccination site, but now says they could run out of doses as soon as next week. Around 10.5 million Americans have gotten a shot, a little more than half of the 20 million goal the federal government had hoped for by the end of 2020. This week, President-elect Biden unveiled a $1.9 trillion plan that would aim to expand distribution, reopen schools by spring, and deliver another round of stimulus relief for Americans.
I'm convinced we can get it done because the health of the nation is literally at stake.
Another new concern, federal health officials now believe the new, more contagious mutation of the coronavirus, first detected in the UK and since detected in several states, could soon become the dominant strain in the U.S. by March, ramping up infections and hospitalizations. Doctors, however, remain optimistic that the current vaccines will be effective against the new variant. In New York, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
India made a different call than its Western counterparts when it came to who gets the coronavirus vaccine first. Sanitation worker Manish Kumar became the first person in the country to be vaccinated against COVID-19 today. Kumar was followed by the director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences and others. The vaccinations come as India's Prime Minister Modi launched one of the world's largest immunization campaigns against the coronavirus. India plans to vaccinate around 300 million people with 2 doses in the first 6 to 8 months of the year. First in line will be healthcare and other workers such as sanitation and security, followed by 270 million other Indians older than 50 or those at high risk due to pre-existing medical conditions. When we return, we are taking a closer look at the security situation surrounding the upcoming inauguration.
Washington, D.C. on high alert ahead of the inauguration. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington. What authorities are saying about possible threats coming up.
President-elect Joe Biden says he feels safe ahead of his outdoor swearing-in ceremony next week. Fox News' Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
Mr. President-elect, do you feel safe about Wednesday based on the intelligence that you've seen? Yes.
President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration will look like no other. 25,000 National Guard troops have been authorized to be in D.C., and the National Mall has been closed, all to ensure it remains peaceful.
Enjoy it virtually on January 20th.
An inauguration rehearsal had to be rescheduled because of security concerns, and authorities are increasingly worried about armed protests across the country leading up to January 20th.
All 50 state FBI JTTFs in the 4 territories are working 24 hours a day to pursue every lead, every credible threat, and run that to ground.
And more information out Friday on the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The D.C.'s acting attorney is walking back the FBI's claim some of the insurrectionists were planning to kidnap and assassinate leaders. They say the investigation is complex and ongoing. Even so, Republican Senator Ben Sasse writing, "These men weren't drunks who got rowdy. They were terrorists attacking this country's constitutionally mandated transfer of power." Meanwhile, on Wednesday, President Trump is planning a traditional small event at Joint Base Andrews to thank service members and staff before flying home to Florida one last time on Air Force One. What's not traditional is it will come all before President-elect Biden takes the oath of office. Vice President Mike Pence will be at the inauguration ceremony and has spoken with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
D.C.'s mayor is also asking people, if you see something, say something. And if you have any information on those who may want to cause harm, call 911 or the FBI. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
The Justice Department is providing updated information about the arrests and investigations stemming from the riot at the U.S. Capitol last week. Fox News' Rich Edson has that story.
A horned helmet, coyote tail headdress, face paint, a 6-foot-long spear, and a note for the Vice President of the United States. Federal prosecutors in Arizona say Jacob Chansley's message for Vice President Mike Pence, it's only a matter of time. Justice is coming. Those prosecutors add, quote, although he stated his note was not a threat, the government strongly disagrees. Though federal officials in D.C. caution the investigation is in its early stages, and there is no direct evidence of plans to capture and assassinate elected officials. Justice Department officials say they have 275 open investigations and nearly 100 criminal cases.
Every FBI field office in the country is looking for you. So you might want to consider turning yourself in instead of wondering when we're going to come knocking on your door, because we will.
Among those prosecutors have already charged Jennifer Ryan. Authorities say she flew to Washington from Texas on a private jet. Robert Keith Packer. Law enforcement says he was in and out of the Capitol wearing a Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt. Eric Munchel. Authorities say he brought zip ties, which can be used as hand restraints, into the Capitol building. Authorities have also charged John Sullivan, a former speed skater who competed in the 2018 Olympic trials. He's also a self-proclaimed social justice activist. Federal prosecutors say he told a crowd in Washington that they were going to burn it down and rip Trump from office. Last year, left-wing activist groups accused Sullivan of trying to infiltrate their protests, claiming he had ties to right-wing groups. Federal authorities say Sullivan has no known ties to Antifa. A source also tells Fox News Capitol Police are looking at reports members of Congress gave tours to those in town attending the protests.
If in fact it is found that members of Congress were accomplices to this insurrection, if they aided and abetted the crime, there may have to be actions taken beyond the Congress and in terms of prosecution for that.
Federal officials say they're also gathering information that some law enforcement, both retired and off-duty, may have been part of that mob that attacked the Capitol last week. In Washington, Rich Edson, Fox News.
We'll be right back with more news. Don't go anywhere. The IRS is holding off on when many Americans can start sending in their tax filings this year. The agency announced on Friday that it will begin accepting and processing 2020 tax returns on February 12th. That's about 2 weeks later than last year's January opening. The IRS says it needs time to test its systems after tax law changes provided for a second round of stimulus checks, and it wants to avoid delays in refunds. Does your work or a sense you need to be working all the time tend to work you towards depression? A new study suggests yes. According to a study in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, if you tend to be a workaholic, you are at greater risk for depression. The researchers looked at around 190 French workers who had high job demands. They found those people were 5 times more likely to be prone to work addiction and twice as likely to be depressed. Those employees clocked about 7 hours more work per week than low-risk workers. Sleep quality was also much lower in those with work addiction. All right, don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more news headed your way, as well as another look at your weather with meteorologist Nick Kelly and your KOAM Sports Report with Sports Director Jacob Leonard. That's all coming up right here on your KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. And still to come, 2 of America's most dangerous adversaries are issuing a parting shot at the Trump administration and a warning shot to the incoming Biden team. Plus, the streets of Baghdad are a little bit safer after an organized crime ring is busted and thousands of pills and other illegal items are confiscated. That story and more are coming up. 2 of America's most dangerous adversaries are issuing a parting shot to the Trump administration and a warning shot to the incoming Biden team. Fox News' Greg Palcott takes a look.
Double trouble for the incoming Biden administration. North Korea showing off new missiles, and Iran shooting off its own missiles in a drill in the country's desert. Projectiles capable of hitting U.S. bases in the region, following naval drills in which missiles were aimed at a mock U.S. submarine.
The message of this drill is our might and determination to defend our sovereignty, our system and values against the enemies of Islam and Iran.
Weaponry the outgoing Trump administration had in mind when it issued more sanctions aimed at Tehran's conventional arms. Amid signs Iran continues to build up its nuclear capability, analysts say Tehran wants to restart a nuke deal with the new White House team, but still keep a punch.
By being very aggressive, I think it indicates they want to get back into the deal on the strongest terms possible.
And North Korea is not holding back either. In a military parade in Pyongyang at the end of a special Congress of leader Kim Jong-un's ruling party, new land-based missiles were rolled out, which could target U.S. military installations, as well as missiles capable of being launched from submarines that could bring North Korea's nuclear threat close to the U.S. itself.
We must do everything we can to increase nuclear war deterrence even further, as we build the strongest military capability.
Kim, too, however, did not rule out diplomacy. He praised the 2018 Singapore summit with President Trump, saying it assured the establishment of new North Korea-U.S. relations. But it appears Pyongyang wants those relations to be on its own nuclear terms as well. Analysts suggest that North Korea and Iran might actually be keeping an eye on each other as each deals with the United States as they get ready to do some very risky business with a new White House team. In London, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
Let's take a closer look at those missile drills in Iran. The country's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard tested anti-warship ballistic missiles today. Military officials launched the missiles at a target in the Indian Ocean. Iranian state TV captured footage of the missiles exploding near the designated target, which they described as, quote, hypothetical hostile enemy ships. A large amount of crystal meth and other illegal items were seized in Iraq. Government officials announced that they arrested 20 members of an organized crime network and seized more than 14,000 pills. At a news briefing, the Iraqi Military Intelligence Office displayed the drugs and mentioned that 5 vehicles and 4 motorcycles were also now in their possession. An Iraqi military spokesperson confirmed that all 20 people arrested had outstanding warrants, all related to drug charges. All right, we'll be right back with meteorologist Nick Kelly and another look at your weather. Stay tuned.
On the heels of our last storm system that started our look at the top left from indigo sky with snow and a little bit of ice covering the lens, that melted away. We enjoyed seeing partly to mostly sunny skies throughout the course of the day. And even as the evening got started, now we're just waiting to see if more cloud cover can build in throughout the course of the night. But we're sitting mainly underneath partly cloudy skies right now. So at least we're looking okay as we go into the rest of the late night ahead of us. 37 in Joplin, a calm breeze with the humidity still rather low compared to where they were yesterday at 65%. We have 38 in Carl Junction, 35 in Pittsburgh, 33 in Seneca, while Fairland, rather, is sitting at 31 degrees. So most of the Joplin metro is holding steady in the mid-30s. But once you get outside of the Joplin metro, we're at 32 in Nevada, 34 in Welsh, 37 in Chanute. So still a bit of a range in temperatures with most of us in the mid to even a few upper 30s still. But I think we are set to go back into the 20s later on tonight as we see more cloud cover ahead of our next wave working in. The last one that worked on through yesterday, if you can remember when Doug was showing you this map, it was covering up the eastern half of the lower 48. Now that system is working across the northern parts of New England, around Quebec, and southeastern parts of Canada. At the surface, doesn't look like a lot's going on. We do have high pressure dictating our winds for tomorrow. It's going to shift them more to the northwest as we go into tomorrow. But upstairs, we have one quick little wave coming across the Dakotas and western parts of Minnesota before we see some more try to develop along the backside of this upper level ridge. Those waves will eventually have to head our way as we head through the week ahead. In the short term, though, we're looking okay. We'll just deal with partly cloudy skies throughout the overnight, maybe some of you turning mostly clear before sunrise, but regardless of what your skies look like tonight, everyone will be cold with lows dropping back into the upper 20s. Even though we will go back to mostly cloudy skies with that next wave across Minnesota and the Dakotas clipping us just to our north and east, it is close enough to bring in mostly cloudy skies. Doesn't change the fact that I think we can do a little bit better with temperatures tomorrow. 27 in the morning, 39 by noon, afternoon highs around 43. So around the immediate 4-state area, we're looking cool but quiet. Most of us in the lower to middle 40s. But up at Arrowhead, you'll be a little bit cooler, and with some colder air aloft with that wave, you might encounter a few random snow showers as the Chiefs take on the Browns, especially for the first half of the game. Most of the time, though, temperatures will be pretty tolerable, right around 40 degrees with the northwest wind at about 10 to 15. And hopefully we get the Chiefs to pull off another win tomorrow at Arrowhead. In the meantime, though, Sunday night into Monday, we'll keep skies quiet as we go back into the upper 20s, lower 50s for Monday, even though we have another wave clipping us from the north. That could bring in a few showers Monday night and Tuesday morning. Then the tension turns to this upper low sitting across Southern California for a good portion of the week. Even though it wants to sit as we head toward the middle of the week, it's going to eventually start to head our way, and you can see what it does. As it does so, brings in rain chances and maybe some snow chances in here, especially for Thursday and Friday. So that's the next bigger storm system to keep an eye on. In the meantime, though, temperatures look okay for the next several days. 43 Sunday, 52 on Martin Luther King Day, 42 Tuesday, and then back near 50 for Wednesday and Thursday, Mike.
Well, thanks again, Nick Kelly and Nick. Check this out. A volcano erupted on Java Island in Indonesia. The eruption of Mount Semeru spewed hot clouds up to 3 miles away today. The country's National Disaster Mitigation Agency warned those in villages along the mountain slopes to be vigilant and to look out for lava floods. So far, there have been no orders to evacuate. Indonesia sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire and is prone to eruptions and earthquakes. And speaking of earthquakes in Indonesia, at least 45 people are dead after a 6.2 magnitude quake struck the eastern part of the country. Rescue and recovery efforts continued at Mamuju today. Emergency crews are working to overcome obstacles as they try to find both survivors and victims. Much of the sifting through the collapsed buildings and debris is being done by hand. Local officials believe some people are still buried beneath the rubble. At least 300 houses suffered damage and about 15,000 people have moved into shelters. Wildfires created red skies above a Chilean region on Friday and caused locals to flee from their homes. The Valparaiso area of Chile north of Santiago was full of orange and red smoke caused by wildfires that officials believe were deliberately set. The fires blazed through about 1,000 acres of forest. Locals tried to fight back with water hoses and shovels, but at least 10 properties were engulfed by the fires sweeping through one town. Officials ordered 25,000 residents to be evacuated as hundreds of firefighters were deployed to help battle the flames. No deaths or injuries have been reported. All right, stick around, sports fans. We'll be right back with KOAM Sports Director Jacob Leonard and your KOAM News at 9 Sports Report.
The Pittsburgh State women are one of the hottest teams in the MIAA right now. The Gorillas have won 6 straight games after beating Emporia State on Thursday night. Now this afternoon, the Gorillas are on the road against Washburn, trying to push that streak to 7 games. We're tied at 56 in the 4th. Julia Johnson scores 14 points, 10 boards tonight for Johnson. Gorillas up 2. Other end, Washburn will tie this thing back up at 58. We are going to overtime. Now, in overtime, tied at 60, Tristan Gegg, she had a nice game. 24 points, hit 5 threes, including this one here. Gorillas make it 7 straight wins, beating Washburn 69-61 in overtime. As for the Gorilla men, they're trying to get back over 500 this afternoon against the 8th-ranked Ichabods. Pitt State was within 2 at halftime, but they fall in this one 84-62. Bobby Arthur Williams leads the way for PSU with 17 points. The Missouri Southern Lions are also in action today on the road against Emporia State. Now, the Southern women try to avoid a 3rd straight loss after falling to Washburn on Thursday. A sophomore Maddie Stokes had a monster game today, 21 points, 22 rebounds, both career highs. It's ESU, though, winning 73-62. Now, on the men's side, Lions needed this one, and they got it, 75-64. Lawson Jenkins and Cam Martin each score 19. The Chanute Blue Comets host the SEK League wrestling duels today, and the defending state champion Comets are aiming for their 4th consecutive league title this weekend. And we will pick it up in the semifinals today, Chanute facing Pittsburgh. Chanute rolls fast in this one, 138 pounds. Colton Seeley wins by fall in a little more than a minute over Alex Alvarado. Next match at 145. Went into the second period, but Chanute's Ty Leedy gets by J.J. White with a pin. Now, Matt Smith and Zane Decker won decisions for Pittsburgh, but here, top-ranked Braden Dillo gets a pin late in the first period over Caden Barber. Chanute earns a spot in the finals, 70-6 over Pittsburgh. Other semifinal, really good one here. Indy and Fort Scott, 120 pounds. Sean Berger gets the leg over, gets the pin over Cohen Wright. At 160 pounds, Donald Harper going to work for Fort Scott. 3 minutes into it, gets the win by fall over Ethan Line. Check it out, though. Independence. Here they come. Eli Walters. Tough match for him, but he does get the pin 5 minutes in. Indy within 5 going to the final match. So obviously, they need a pin to win. Enter Sir Grant. Look at this man. Grant gets on top, and that's it. Sir Grant wins it for Indy 36-35 over Fort Scott. So here we go. Independence and Chanute for the SEK League title. Trent Clements, ranked number 1 in the state at 120 pounds, takes care of business for the Comets in the second period, winning over Cohen Wright. And then Quentin Harris, 152 pounds for Chanute, also winning by fall in the second period over Ian Johnson. The Blue Comets rolling at that point. Back to Braden Dillow, though. Finishes his match in under a minute. Chanute makes it 4 straight SEK titles, topping Independence 72-9.
It definitely means a lot. It's definitely one of our goals that we have set this year. Basically, we're just taking it as scoring points when we go out there and hoping that gets the job done and trying to make that happen.
Anytime we step on the mat, we take it personal, and obviously we want to win. But like I said, we compete for something on the wall, and that doesn't go away. People remember that.
That's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
Welcome back to your News at 9. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has selected 9 of her most trusted allies in the House to argue the case for President Trump's impeachment conviction. But there are many questions about whether a trial will even take place, and if so, when. Fox News' Mark Meredith takes a look.
That president was impeached in a bipartisan way.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insists President Trump will face trial over last week's riots on Capitol Hill.
They're now working on taking this to trial, and you'll be the first to know.
Senior Democrats had suggested lawmakers could delay sending the case, allowing the Senate to focus on President-elect Biden's cabinet nominees. Pelosi selected 9 Democrats, led by Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin, to serve as impeachment managers. The timing for the president's trial is unusual. He leaves office Wednesday, and it's unlikely the Senate hears the case before then.
Most Americans want neither inaction nor retribution.
As some Republicans argue impeachment is about settling political scores, a new ABC News Washington Post poll finds a majority of Americans want to see the president disqualified from holding office again, with 56% saying the president should be removed from office. It's unclear how long a trial may take and how such a controversial case could impact Democratic priorities in a Biden administration's first 100 days. Republicans say they're ready to challenge any potential power grab.
Their agenda for 4 years has been to make Donald Trump a villain. Now that he's leaving the White House, we see what they will really be up to, and it'll be bills like H.R. 1 and massive spending bills.
Top Democrats say they support a new Biden-backed $1.9 trillion stimulus package, but also remain focused on other priorities, including creating national same-day voter registration, statehood for D.C., and tax increases on wealthier Americans. A Senate conviction for President Trump is by no means guaranteed at this point. Democrats would need to win over at least 17 Republican senators to make that happen. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he's not making any judgments yet. He simply wants to hear how the case is presented once it is presented to him. In Washington, Mark Meredith, Fox News.
Another Trump administration official is wrapping up his time with the administration. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar resigned on Friday. Azar cited the changing of administrations as the reason for his departure. Azar became the Health and Human Services Director back on January 2018 and will officially depart his position on January 20th. The National Rifle Association has filed for bankruptcy, and they are planning to move their headquarters to Texas. Fox News' Lucas Tomlinson has that story.
The NRA is divorcing itself from New York and marrying Texas, but not before some parting shots from the Empire State's Attorney General, who says the organization has gone unchecked for many years and wants to hold them accountable.
Basically, they were diverting funds from this charitable organization for their own personal use. And so the corruption and greed has finally and unfortunately resulted in this organization filing bankruptcy.
The move from New York was announced at the same time the NRA filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, a business decision that will allow them to repay their creditors, and more importantly, pausing any pending litigation from New York, who filed a lawsuit this summer. The group's headquarters will remain in Fairfax, Virginia, outside the nation's capital. It was founded to teach marksmanship and firearm safety and has become the largest gun rights advocacy group in the country. In a statement, Wayne LaPierre, the head of the NRA, which boasts 5 million members, said, quote, "This strategic plan represents a pathway to opportunity, growth, and progress. Obviously, an important part of this plan is dumping New York. This is a transformational moment in the history of the NRA." LaPierre is under investigation from the IRS for potential criminal fraud linked to his personal taxes. In Washington, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
We are not done yet here on your KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. And when we return, we are taking a quick trip to China, where 4 adorable pandas were having fun in the snow. That story and more is coming up in just 2 quick minutes. Welcome back to your News at 9. 4 pandas got to take a snow day over in China. Poo Poo, Bing Quing, Fafa, and Bing Hua got outside for some cool fresh air at the zoo in Shenyang City. As you can see, the group of pandas rolled, climbed, walked, and chewed as they played in the snowy scenery. Zookeepers said it's good that they can get out into wider spaces and away from a climate-controlled environment. They certainly have some natural protection against that snow, so I bet it's easier for those furry guys to stay warm. All right, typically folks don't expect cats and dogs to get along, but on one farm in Greece, cats can be found nursing on a dog. Sandy the dog not only allows cats to nurse, but she cuddles with them too. Sandy's owner, George, says he found Sandy last July in a forest after a storm and decided to bring her home. Initially, Sandy did not get along with George's cats, and up until a month ago, they were, quote, fighting like cats and dogs. But Sandy seems to have changed her tune with her feline friends, and she now allows them to nurse and even falls asleep with them. Boy, I don't think my dog Peanut would ever do that. He doesn't like cats. All right, thanks so much for wrapping up your Saturday evening with us. Be sure to stop by tomorrow for more News at 9, and of course, have a great night and stay safe out there.